The hidden feelings of teenagers. Even though everyone endures some teasing in life, today a girl opens up about how prolonged bullying led to a deep depression, how she came out of it, and how we as parents and caregivers can recognize signs of bullying and severe depression, and also what to do about it. That's today on Mom Squad. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Mom Squad, the show where we talk all things parenting. And we are still in the middle of our back to school coverage as our kids start back into new classrooms with new teachers, maybe even new classmates. One of the biggest concerns every parent has is bullying. Because according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, studies have found that kids who are bullied are at greater risk for depression, anxiety, sleep issues, and low academic achievement. So joining me today is Holly Strano, my wonderful coworker, mother of two, and mental health advocate. And when we were tackling this topic, especially, Holly, you were the first person I thought of because you do so much work with mental health, and it's become such an issue on the forefront when it comes to teens.
Sure.
And talking about keeping them mentally healthy as they go throughout changes, development.
Oh gosh, and that is such a time of change. And I think those things in themselves are often stressful. And so then add to that pandemic, which we're still, I feel like teens and even preteens and kids, adults, we're all dealing with mental health in a very different way that we used to be.
Right.
That's for sure. And as parents, I mean, I know like with myself, you're always concerned. Are they talking to me enough? Are they hiding something? How would I know?
Right.
You don't want to be overbearing. You want to give them their space because as teenagers, it's kind of a whole new world, and I'm learning literally as we go on here. But I do think that having those open lines of communication is what's so vital. And I've noticed that with my two own kids.
Yeah, and until you have kids, I think you don't realize how much you mama bear, you know, like when they go into kindergarten through high school, just are they getting picked on? Are they getting along with their peers? Is somebody teasing them?
Right.
Are they going to be open about it? Are they going to tell me if they're getting, bullied in the hallway? So you did a story that I wanted to share with everybody else. Holly introduced me to, and many of our viewers, to a very special teenager who suffered bullying and depression. She had the strength to come out on the brighter side, and her story was so impactful, we wanted to share it with you.
Right before quarantine happened, freshman year, I was already feeling kind of down and kind of just questioning things in general. And then quarantine hit, and I would say like with isolation and just not being around people, it just made everything 10 times worse. And then I just kind of didn't really say anything for the next 2 years. I just kind of questioned my life and didn't know how I was going to go on.
Depression can hit at any time, and it can hit anyone.
I saw a quote once, and it said that the happiest people are the most unhappiest people, and the funniest people are also the most unhappiest people.
Even teenagers like Bella Hustick.
I would say I was questioning my worth and my purpose the most. I felt like I didn't really have a purpose or a reason to really keep living. Some of it also I would just feel sad for no reason, and I would say it was a good mixture of both. I would feel sad because there were things going on, and then also I just felt down.
At 16, Bella says she went through a heartbreak like any teen. But combined with incessant bullying she says she suffered since second grade, her emotions started to become too big.
A year ago, we went on vacation, and I remember I was just literally crying the whole time. And I think that's when my family kind of started to notice.
So big that she admitted she had suicidal thoughts.
So then in August, I went to a hospital in Akron, Akron Children's Hospital, for 10 days, and it was really, really amazing. The counselors were amazing, and my psychiatrist was.
Bella found healing in poetry, writing and rhyming her feelings, pouring her heart out page by page.
And I would say about 2 years ago, I started getting into more just poetry, because at that time I just wanted to write things down and not like do a whole like entry. I just wanted to do my thoughts, and my thoughts kind of like started rhyming and started flowing, and I was like, well, maybe like I could start doing poetry. Yeah.
Bella eventually enrolled in online schooling at Ohio Connections Academy, found a therapist, and that's when the idea for the book came out. She compiled her poems into a book, A Prison-Trapped Mind, and now that it's published, she's realizing she wasn't alone in those thoughts.
Now I've had people like that I haven't talked to in years, or people that I don't even know, like come up to me or like text me, and they're just like, your poetry has really helped me, and like that's really, really good to hear.
So she is just so amazing, and she's not just stopping with the one book.
No, right? I mean, so Bella hopes to write another book soon, and she's working on the theme. But sooner than that, she'll be a spokesperson for Be Present Ohio, and that is the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation's outreach program. So come September, which is National Suicide Prevention Month, I mean, it's one of those things that I feel like suicide is such a taboo topic, but as you heard from Bella, I mean, she had some really scary thoughts.
Yeah.
She really did. And she went to poetry. She really didn't know what she was going to do. She just randomly wrote down. As I sat and talked with her, I was amazed at her strength. But what really stuck out to me is she said it was a long time before her family recognized this.
I think that's what was so scary.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, I was surprised because a lot of teens don't come out and admit it. So for her sharing her story, I thought that was one step into amazing. And then when you were sitting there, what was your impression as a mother when you're talking to a teen who's sitting there saying, I had suicidal thoughts, my family never knew.
Never knew. They were on vacation, and you know, she said finally it came out. But what my thought was is she was so put together, as you all just saw, and had, to me, no signs of somebody, and it's typically how it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably one of the biggest things that I get just when I talk about my own anxiety is people are shocked. And I think that we all kind of put on our face.
Yeah.
Because that's just what you do in life. We've been taught that. But when it comes to, I mean, be it a children, teens, adults, it's a really scary thing because, you know, you have to sort of be able to get under those layers when it comes to mental health. And once you have the conversations, like she said, she was just a different person.
Yeah.
Once she opened up, she felt so much better. Once she started talking to her family, she felt so much better. She felt trapped before that. And that's my biggest fear with my own kids, you know, because I look at them both and you know how we are. I'm like, they're splitting atoms and they're perfect.
Right.
But there are days that maybe like Grady gets in the car after school and you know how kids are, they're quiet. And I think, did something happen? And I think there's a fine line between also bugging them. Are you fine? Are you fine?
Right.
Are you fine? Are you fine?
Right.
Because they don't like that. But just making sure that they know that you are a comfort zone. Someone once said to me, the two best things you can do is listen and love. And so it's I think as parents, we get in that zone of, we obviously have to discipline too.
Right.
But when you really just shower them with love because they need it, and then listen when they talk, really listen, because you'd be surprised. And I think that that's one of the things that I'm learning most now as I have teens.
Yeah. And I think the other surprising thing about Bella's story, which is probably a very common story for a lot of kids, is that the bullying started at a young age. That's what eventually led to, and she's talked about the heartbreak, but then also that she thinks it was from bullying from early grades.
Right.
Which, as you said, you sit there and you ask your kid, what's going on? What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, and I know I was asking my daughter when she first started first grade, because kindergarten, it was interrupted by the pandemic, but when she'd come home, I go, who did you play with? Who was it? Are you getting along?
Did you sit at the lunch table with somebody?
Did you play with somebody? Did you? And one time I could tell she was getting kind of exhausted from it. And I go, am I putting too much pressure on you? And this is like first grade. Scarlett goes, yeah. You are, you know, but we're so worried about this story being our kids' story.
Turning into our story.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that when you watch Bella, it really could be any one of our stories, and that's what you realize. That's what is so eye-opening about it.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes there is still such a stigma or a label or whatever you want to say about mental health. You almost put this idea in your head of this mopey kid, walking around, and that's not how it is.
No.
I mean, that's not how she was.
Right.
She was doing everything right, and her parents, and her mother was there the day that we did that interview, and she's like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Until she literally cried out. And sometimes I think certain kids do. It's different personalities, obviously, but as long as you're having conversations from an early age, that's why I think you're really smart. I mean, even in grade school, I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I told my kids, I am here for you. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm here. No matter what, you can come to me, no matter what it is, we're gonna get through it. I think sometimes kids get afraid, will mom or dad be mad because whatever happened, but they have to understand that we're there to love them and be with them.
And I think there's so much more awareness now than when we were kids about bullying, what's allowed, what's not allowed, and there's so much more conversation around it and education within the classroom of how you treat people and what you say, what you don't say. But when it comes to identifying bullying so that we can get to the root of this, you want to identify and then minimize bullying. And so 1 out of every 5 children report being bullied. Think about that. So we talked to Dr. Jessica Russo, who is a 7th and 8th grade counselor at Norton Middle School in Northeast Ohio. She is in the thick of it. She tells us the first steps you take.
We have to identify what is bullying and making sure a child understands what bullying is versus like what tattling is, what somebody making a mean comment. Bullying is like a constant repeated behavior towards a student in a negative way, in a derogatory way, whether it's physical, verbal, cyberbullying, whatever it is. But as far as parents and what they can do in preparation for that, I think it's important to monitor your social media sites of your child. I think it's also important to prepare your child if there's a concern, if you're feeling like something's going on, to let them know, to tell an adult. There's always a safe adult that they can go to in the school, but also to tell them as a parent, and they can reach out to us.
According to the National Center for Educational Statistics, 46% of bullied students report notifying an adult at school. So that is less than half when you think about it. And when it comes to kids between 9 and 12 years old, sort of that sweet spot, 49.8% say they were bullied at school. 14.5% say they were bullied online. So where are the most common places that kids are getting bullied? Studies show it is the hallway or stairwell. That was the most common place that kids said that they were bullied. Inside the classroom was the second most reported location. Then the cafeteria, followed by school grounds. And actually what was really surprising about this study, because we talk about it so much, is that online and like cyberbullying was actually rated pretty low when they asked these students, because I think all of us start to worry about, kids. I think this is a whole other topic, Holly, about Instagram, social media.
I think we all think that's where the bullying happens.
Right, which it can, but
not as much. Huh?
But it's still that it's the hallways and at school.
Those little, comments as you're passing somebody.
Exactly, or the little places that adults aren't. There's more students in the hallways than there are adults, teachers, when classrooms are changing. So is that where it's happening? Just so you're aware, just because I think that was fascinating to me, because I'm thinking, oh, well, on social media, I'm going to have to monitor that. That's where we can, or like, the cafeteria, that's ranked pretty high. But I also want to talk about the signs of depression and a mental health struggle, because we've talked about the signs of bullying, what you can do about it, but there are signs that your teen will show. You've covered this a lot.
Yes, there are definite signs. I mean, sleeping problems is probably number one, and that goes either way. It could be lack of sleep or just all they do is sleep. So you have to watch. And then again, as a mom of teens, they do tend to sleep in. So don't panic. Don't panic about that. But I mean, it's talking extreme sleep, like they're sleeping, into the afternoon, and they're just kind of not themselves.
Right.
And we all know our kids better than anybody. So there's that. And then eating and lack of eating. It could be that, I feel like, can go on either way too. It can be extreme eating, or it can be no eating at all, or just kind of no interest. And I think that those are things that we as adults also would watch amongst ourselves in these things. But you have to be so careful with kids, because, are we sitting at the tables with them and having those dinners? And places where we're able to recognize that this is going on in the crazy lives that we live with practices. I mean, how often are we saying like our hamster wheel of a day?
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to take that, even if it's 20 minutes, to sit at your kitchen table. And so you can kind of observe a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of observe, have a little conversation. Are they like, see if they're like eating at their plate a little bit and talking to you, or if they just seem not themselves. And the sleep part is a good one.
That's a huge one. And I know you have 2 teens, and I know everybody's personality is totally different.
Right.
I mean, we talk to so many moms where it's, one kid will sit there and pour their heart out. They'll tell you everything. And then there's another one who has always been a little bit more guarded and, I don't want to say secretive, but they hold their lives close,
Right.
and
My two
divulge
are
what they
polar
want.
opposites
Yeah.
as far as how that goes. So my daughter is much more like to herself. Like I would describe her as very strong-willed. And so it's not that she doesn't talk, but boy, it takes a lot.
Yeah.
So when she does, you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is bothering you. My son doesn't stop talking.
Yeah.
So it's that open book.
Yeah.
And so if he were to be silent or quiet,
Right.
that would be a dead ringer for me.
Yeah.
Like, this is just not him right now.
So how do you get your daughter to talk and open up? Any tricks?
Same. Well, I talk to her a lot, and I feel like, our relationship has obviously evolved now that she is a teen. But it's, again, the boundaries and knowing that, okay, they think they're adults.
Yeah.
They do think they're adults as they're going into that world. So I try to respect her privacy and make sure that I'm giving her all the love that she possibly needs, and she knows she can come to me. So I guess the way that it has evolved with us is that when there is something, she does come to me.
Yeah.
So I have that comfort. I could see it in her too.
Yeah.
I could see it in her face.
Yeah.
Like, I know immediately if something's bothering her.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other thing, is just knowing your own kids. And like I said, I could read either of mine from a mile away, their moods, what they're thinking.
Yeah.
So, and you know how that is.
Yeah.
So I think that that's key with her. She would be one, like with Scarlett, if I kept grilling her about a million things, Mom, stop it.
Right. Right.
So I think we have to be aware of that, but we also have to be aware that it's important to have conversations. And I know that both of my kids, with the way I am with all of this mental health stuff, they both know that, if there's anything, then they could just bring it to me, and it's going to go nowhere.
I've also talked to so many psychologists about like how to get kids opened up. And I think one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was to not minimize their feelings, whatever age. So, I mean, you're talking a 5-year-old, you're talking a 15-year-old, but to never go, oh, you're just being crabby, or
Oh, gosh, no.
You're making such a big deal out of this. Don't worry about it, because in their lives, the little things are the big deal. And so when you start that type of attitude and that kind of openness early on in their lives, then when something major does happen, if there is a bullying situation, if there is a heartbreak, teens,
that's the end of the universe to
yes.
them. That's a huge deal.
Those are their first loves. And if that's what leads to depression, you don't want to go, oh, it was no big deal. Oh,
there'll be more.
There's going to be more.
More fish in the sea.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
No,
you never want to push them.
That's
to that
where,
point.
too, I think the listening comes in, too. Like you said, instead of saying, like, oh, you'll be fine, just let them go. Let them talk and just listen and really understand.
Yeah. I always say, I went through that, too.
Yes.
I've been there, too.
Boy, I get it.
And I got through it.
Yep. Yep.
Look at us now.
So will you. But I understand that you're feeling this way, and it's okay.
Right. It's
and I think acknowledging, too, to them that instead of like, you're fine, it's okay to be sad.
Yes.
Like, they're okay to be, that they're allowed to cry and be mad or have, just like we are.
Right.
So sometimes we want them to just be that perfect feel all the time, but just like we don't have those kinds of days every day, they don't either.
Yeah. Think about how far we've come, back when our grandparents and the way they used to have conversations, and now how in tune we are with emotions. We're lucky that we have all this research.
And schools are doing so much more.
Yes.
Which is so huge.
Yes.
We've been talking about this so much on air. Too.
Yeah. All right. Well, Holly, thank you so much.
Yes.
Holly Strano, always good to talk to, and I always appreciate your insight, especially when it comes to mental health. Thank you for introducing us to Bella. She is amazing. And thank you for joining us here on Mom Squad. Next week, we know money is tight in pretty much every household due to inflation, but there are ways to cheapskate the new school year as we head toward the holidays. So we're going to talk to a financial advisor and mom of 2 about how she finds ways to save and what you should be thinking in terms of cutting from the budget. So we'll see you right back here next week for Mom Squad.